Hi everyone, it's Penelope in London, and Mercury went direct, or it's stationed to go direct, which is wonderful news. And if you can see my pointer here, you can see that this chart is July the 23rd of July, and it's just coming up to when I was beginning this, it was about 11 p.m., but it's now 11:25 p.m. And what I want to show you is if we go back by hours, at the time we've got Mercury 16 degrees, and you see the S there, that stands for stationed. So if we go back by hours, we can see that it came out of the RX retrograde phase exactly, which is good to know when. But the station is interesting as well. So that's the 23rd of July in the UK, but the 22nd of July in other parts of the world, depending on where we are. So if I'm getting that right, Mercury retrograde, yes. So 23rd, 22nd, 23rd, depending on where we are. So Mercury station directing Cancer, and it's basically was at 16 degrees of Cancer. So if we look 16 degrees of Cancer, so we're going to go forward again. And this is now the 24th of July. So we're going to go forward. In the UK, it is. It's just after midnight. So I'm a late bird today. So now with this changing direction, what we're paying attention to is something different because Mercury governs the way we think, communicate, learn, and how we make sense of our experience. So when it appears to stand still, which it is when it's in the station, we can think of it's standing, so it appears to stand still in the heavens before moving forward again. So it's a significant moment. And when I looked at today's chart, it wasn't just Mercury that caught my attention. We do have the full moon also coming up in Aquarius, which I'll do a video for next week. But this is an extraordinary sky that's going on. And this is one of the tightest outer planet configurations we've seen for quite some time. Chiron is almost exactly square the sun. So if we look at Chiron here at 0 degrees, and we got the sun, the sun is in at 0 degrees of Leo. No, so not 0 degrees, 1 degree of Leo, 1 degree of Leo. And we've got Chiron at 0 degrees. So this is a square at the moment. It would have been exact yesterday, exact in its square. And it remains also, Jupiter remains in close opposition to Pluto. So you see here we got Pluto, we had an opposition to Jupiter. And also, in a few days, the North Node will change signs into Aquarius, which is opening an entirely new chapter for all of us. And it's good to look where this is in your chart. So if we look at the North Node up here, we have, let's go days ahead. This is the 27th. So let's go hours. We can see exact. If you like looking or whether you're just listening, it's a good way to learn as you see the planets move around the chart. So that is the 26th of July and the 27th of the early hours of the 27th of July in the UK. So Mercury turning direct is important in its own right. And I think today marks something much larger. And it feels like the mind is beginning to catch up with the changes that have been taking place beneath the surface. So if you can think about what's been going on for you, I've had a real deep dive myself because that Mercury for me has been moving through my 8th house. So depending on where it's been for you is the work that's being carried out. So I feel like I've been doing some sort of psychological excavation going on. So with Mercury itself, it's about 3 weeks. You know, it's if we go back and we look when that moved in, and we go back weeks, we're looking the 27th of July, we're going back 1, 2, 3. That's 4. So roughly about 3.5, 4 weeks. And Mercury has spent the last 4 weeks, let's say, moving backwards through Cancer. And Cancer is not a sign that thinks in a detached or analytical way. So there's no detachment there, and it's not being analytical. Cancer remembers, it feels. So it's remembering things. And I remember so many things from my past that just came to mind that I hadn't really thought about. So it was the feelings it brought up, it carried emotional memory. And I also noticed the atmosphere before the facts when I was dealing with things in my current life, like understanding, the feeling of situations. So during this retrograde, many people have revisited old conversations, maybe. It could be internal, the family relationships that we had, the childhood memories, questioning about belonging, the home safety and emotional security. So I've definitely been covering those things. And if you have, you can put it in the comments below if you wish. Mercury retrograde in Cancer, it rarely asks us to gather new information. Instead, it invites us to understand old experiences in a new way. So hopefully that work has been done for you. It's definitely been done for me. I've seen it, and I'm pleased that that's moved on forward. I'm going to take this chart back to the today because we had the moon was in Cancer for the last two and a half days. So we've got the 24th, and we see the moon would have been the 24th. If we go the 24th there, and then we've got Cancer, and then we've got, oh, sorry, I've gone all the way back to June. What am I doing? I'm going months away. I'm going to let myself off the hook because it is, there you go, 25th of July. Because of the Mercury retrograde. I'm really a bit lost there. So also it's late here. Now let's see, we're going to go back here. So we've got this Mercury. We've got also the moon has just will be moving into Sagittarius in the next hour, I would say. I'm going to go back by hours. So we had literally just the moon has just literally left the sign of Scorpio. So for me, it sort of takes me out of the world into my inner world when that happens, because it's the 12th house is Scorpio for me. And also you can look where the moon lands in your chart, and then it'll move into Sagittarius for 2.5 days. So Robert Hand, who's got a wonderful book on astrology, has written about the stationing planets as moments when a planet's symbolism becomes especially concentrated, and reflection gradually becomes expression. So where we've reflected, we're able to express, and understanding slowly becomes communication. And Mercury is standing on that threshold now. And if we step back to look at the larger sky, we've got the three of the slowest planets have been forming this exceptionally beautiful pattern. Neptune is sextile Pluto. So if we look at Neptune, we've got sextile to Pluto. Look how close that is. It's by one arc there, 1 minute arc. So that's just gorgeous. And then we've also got Uranus is trine to Pluto. So if we go, Uranus, sorry, is trine to, it is Uranus here for, again, trine to Pluto. Can you see how exact that is? And then also Uranus is sextile to Neptune. And then Pluto transforms, that's what that's about. And then Neptune dissolves boundaries and awakens our imagination. And Uranus liberates and awakens. And this is the highest levels of that. So Mercury is the interpretator of these things and the bridge between experience and understanding. So it's interesting times we're in, which apparently we're not meant to say, but I've said it and I'll probably say it again. So it turns intuition into language, feelings into thought, and experiences into wisdom. So Mercury interprets things and gives us our language and ability to express as well. And also one aspect that stands out is the Chiron square sun. So you see the Chiron square the sun. Take into mind that although Chiron has moved into the sign of Taurus, it will go back into Aries for a little while before it goes direct again into the sign of Taurus. But that's where it is right now. And today that square is, it's not exact. It would have been exact a day ago, almost a day ago. And Chiron represents places where life has marked us deeply, but where wisdom can emerge. And the question is, it's not simply, it's like what hurts or what hurt. It's like who is speaking now? Because often we could have been so hurt or had a traumatic experience, but the same voice is speaking, the wounded one, or the belief systems, the voices that we were given that told us that we could not be, do, or have what we desire. And we can be replaying those that have nothing to do with us. So the sun in Leo wants us to clearly shine, and there's this wound that's behind us that keeps us repeating the same old, same old. And it's where we may forget sometimes to speak from our authentic selves because we don't value our authentic self, or we've not been able to experience living in real time our authentic self. And also where we've learnt to protect ourselves from being wounded as well, which is a whole nother thing. So Jupiter opposite Pluto has been one of the defining signatures of the recent weeks. So see the Jupiter Pluto, which would have been exact, go back days, because it would have been 4 degrees 58, 4 degrees 23. Remember that we got the retrograde Pluto there. So fourth, that's almost exact. 21st of July, around the 21st of July, July 21st if you're in the USA. We say it differently in the UK. So Pluto, if we think that Jupiter is about growth, at its highest level, and that Pluto insists upon truth and transformation at its highest level. And there's the shadow side to all of these, but we'll stick with the lighter side for now. Mercury helps us begin thinking differently about both. And Lilith also is here, and Mars will be coming into opposition with Lilith up there. And what I can say, I mean, Lilith is very important to me in my own chart. And there are 3 different types of Lilith that are used in evolutionary astrology. There are 4, but I think 3 mainly. So this is about, Mars and Lilith, it's opposition. It's about honest conversations. And they may not always be easy because Lilith has got some rawness in her, but particularly with true Lilith, it's about resolution as well. And the different types of Lilith will give you different types of what Lilith is about. So we have asteroid Lilith, and then we have black moon Lilith. And Mercury in Cancer encourages us now to speak honestly without speaking harshly. So how can we speak honestly without being harsh? And also, how can we do that with ourselves as well? How can we, because if we're honest with ourselves, it can actually speed up things that we're trying to resolve. And clearly, I guess, getting to honesty with ourselves is a lot of push and pull to get to a point where we're honest with ourselves. And also when we can be with ourselves and look at ourselves without speaking harshly to ourselves. If we've experienced that as children where people have been harsh with us, and I think all of us have at some level, whether it's in the family home or outside the family home, we can repeat things again that are memory, that are no longer truth. So stepping into our authenticity and knowing what is true for us now. We're also approaching this North Node energy into Aquarius, and it's followed by the Jupiter exact opposition by Pluto to Pluto that's also in Aquarius, and the full moon, which I'll be doing a video, as I've said, next week. And I see that Mercury direct not as the end of a story, but as the beginning of one. So if we were going to ask ourselves questions, we could ask ourselves, if we're interested, to ask ourselves, what has this Mercury retrograde shown us? And what have we understood about ourselves? And what truth are we now ready to express? So I'm finding it easier to express my own truth with myself. Something I listened to, there was a reel on YouTube, not YouTube, on Instagram, and it was interesting. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was talking about, being a woman. Often, I found with my own lived experience and life experience that in certain situations, and sometimes around men, I can tend to, and sometimes women as well. But I've noticed this on the underground, or when I'm waiting for a train, or I feel vulnerable, that I can sort of make myself smaller and almost like compress myself. And what he was saying was that when we expand, instead of contracting, expanding ourselves, just that aura, it's not about attracting or, to do anything. It's just that sense in ourselves where we're standing tall in ourselves and to express ourselves and not to go around in a contracted, fearful state, which can be difficult. But also, the person who was speaking mentioned that, when things are unsafe, we can walk away from those things, which is really important. But, to walk around hiding ourselves when we're living through life, it's a gift to be alive, and we have a right to be here individually. So to stand in our essence is really important. So I've been practicing that today on the London Underground when I had to go somewhere. So what do we now understand about ourselves? So I've gone through a lot of that where I've gone, okay, now I get that about myself. So, and what do we want to express now? So I've got clearer around that, and it's not about instant clarity. In Cancer, it's the feeling world, but it reminds us that the mind is moving again now. It's going direct, and the reflections of the retrograde become understanding. So what do I understand about that inward time? I find it really useful. I have a Gemini sun at 0 degrees, so Mercury rules my sun, my birth sign. So for me, I really enjoy the retrograde periods of just really everything slowing down and not being allowed. I notice that people do go inward, and it allows us to be able to do that collectively. And the reflections of the retrograde it becomes understanding, and understanding becomes the language, which we've mentioned already. And language has the power to change relationships, which it does. And many of us get stuck in that, where we've not been able to really express ourselves or speak our truth, or things have got out of control where we're trying to express something but we're not understood. And also decisions, and sometimes the decisions that are made, because often when I look back, I can notice that a lot of chaos that happens in our lives are really unpleasant moments. Clearly, they're not just to do with ourselves. There are other people generally involved with these things, but the more we know ourselves, the better choices we can make. And there's difficulty with that around certain things, and we can't control it completely, but we do have some choice on some matters. Like, we can't particularly do it in families, we can't do it in certain work relationships, but there are decisions that we can make based on our wisdom and our knowledge that can make our lives easier for ourselves. So this bridge, where Mercury stands on this bridge between those, let's say 4 weeks of reflection, and then this collective landscape that's now unfolding. And the real invitation here is, it's not just about moving forward again. It's but to move forward with greater understanding. And that's the inner work. So I hope that's been useful, because the next video on the full moon is going to be far more in depth on the node and this configuration and what else is going on. It's a very interesting chart. So I don't know if I've got True Lilith up there. I think she is at 23 degrees at the moment, because there are different Liliths. So I think she is at 23 degrees, True Lilith. And I will do a video actually explaining the different types of Lilith for those that are interested in that. So where are we going? This was the 21st of July. So let's take one look at the chart of the moment. So we got hours. Let's go to the 24th. We got days, 1, 2, 3. This is the 24th. And it's late here. It's after midnight. So it's the 24th in the morning. and just after midnight. So there's the moon at 29 degrees of Scorpio. And then if we go an hour ahead, I'll tell you when the moon is moving into Sagittarius, in case you're interested. There you go. Literally in the next 20 minutes from this video. So that's really good. It's just at the 29th degree of Scorpio, which means it's now in my first house because my ascendant is 27 degrees of Scorpio. Anyway, any comments, leave them in the comments box, and also do like my video or subscribe if you wish. That would be great. And I'll catch you next week with the full moon video.